Good morning. I think it's a good morning. So I'm here at Charles DeGaul Airport. I'm getting ready to get on an Icelandair flight. I'm going to Keflavik. And on this trip, it's the first stop, not the final stop. First stop, not the final stop. On this trip, I'll be enjoying Icelandair Saga Class, which is their first class. And I want to take this trip to show that their way of doing these trips might actually be a better value in business class. Everybody wants lie flat. Very rarely do they use lie flat the whole flight. So let's take a look at that. Let's see what everyone has to offer. I've just found out that Icelandair has no lounge in Paris. So I'm a little sad about that. In the meantime, I'll go get a coffee. On this video, we fly from Charles DeGaul Airport in Paris, France to Keflavik Airport in Iceland, totaling about 1,400 miles flight. I'm already irritated at this airport, which has made itself very confusing. Absent a lounge, I'm having quiche Lorraine, double espresso, and I'm doing it at a good French restaurant instead of the Starbucks that way. Bon appetit. I like the fact this airport has separate restaurants that are a little bit more involved in the cuisine. And this gentleman decided to have a large fight while I was eating, and he was yelling at someone. Departure boards are fascinating to me. I love seeing the airlines and where they're going. The architect for Terminal 1 at Charles DeGaul described this building as the octopus, but it's very space age, and it's got these tubes going everywhere that really remind me of an alien spacecraft. First, you can't tell how steep this ride is, but it's a fairly steep ride. You're on a belt, and it isn't an escalator. It's just a slide walk, and your legs have to hold you in place, and you have to tilt forward. And my God, is it ungodly hot in this tube. And that's for a place like Paris, where it really wasn't that hot outside. This was actually a design theme in the 1960s and 70s. People felt like it evinced the idea of the future, science fiction, and space travel. At the end of the day, that escalator and this tunnel are just plain hot, roasting hot. And I think I can say for all of us, we would forego the space travel in lieu of a better design and a little more ventilation. Does it look really kind of curved and downward? Well, that's because it is, and it really is that steep. Another thing, that tunnel I went up to under the plexiglass, yes, it was hot, but it was also weird. It had kind of a rubber treadway, and it just dragged you up. There were no steps. It wasn't an escalator. It was a sliding walk, and if you didn't brace yourself, you could fall. And now on this one, same deal. It's a slide walk, but we're about to go up I would guess about as much as a 20-degree incline, which is quite a bit. We'll see what this one's like. But it's a little hard on the knees. Oops, and somebody just let their suitcase go going down the slide walk. And it went a long way. Like that was a bowling ball ready to knock somebody over, had there been anybody there in the way. I would guess it went a good 100 meters. This is fun. It really is hard to tell just how steep this is, but this will give you an idea. This is the angle at which Here's a strange one. I'm in a terminal that has no airplanes at it whatsoever. It's admittedly a small terminal, but nonetheless, no planes at any of the gates. I don't think I've had that happen to me in 40 or 50 years.
See this guy? Well, he was asleep a moment ago and he had his feet on the table. His feet with dirty socks. Socks that looked like they were from a garbage dump.
The plane's not here. I don't have a particular problem with that. I think it'll be at the gate in about 15 minutes, just watching planes take off. But it's hard for me to imagine turning around a 767-300 in an hour or less. If they do it, I'm going to be impressed. But I think we're going to leave late. We'll see. I'm also looking around this gate. Now, admittedly, we have about 15 minutes to the quote-unquote boarding hour. There's no one here. I mean, maybe it's just not a full flight, but I will tell you business class was full. And I look around and there's no one here. They have wheelchairs here that an attendant drives and somebody sits in and they move like crazy. Like, I want to ride one just because it moves so fast. That was really cool. A guy came up and just came buzzing by like he was on, I don't know, like a scooter mostly. That was really cool. Just carrying somebody away at a speed that I'm sure would not be deemed safe in the United States. That was something else.
Much quicker than I expected, we were asked to line up for boarding the aircraft, and the reason I couldn't find anybody else for this airplane was the fact that they moved the gate to one gate over, and everybody else was hanging out on the other side of the wall, quietly and respectfully.
Good morning, Saga class. Bonjour, madame. Bonjour. Thank you. Merci. Bonjour.
Mm-hmm.
May you scan, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Boarding, not boarding.
Business class on the 767 is a domestic first class style seat, and I think that's true throughout all of the Icelandair fleet. However, it's a comfortable seat, certainly for the style of travel that they're offering you, and I wouldn't turn it down in the least. In fact, I think it's pretty nice. However, there's just one thing. It's on a 767, and even a new 767 feels like a pretty old 767.
It's about 13 minutes until departure. I think we're full. That was impressive. That was a very quick boarding. I think we started right at 1, stood in the hallway for quite a while. But they got us on here and got us seated, and kudos.
This is what I mean. It's an older architecture and an older infrastructure on an aircraft that, even though this plane was just about 10 years old, it looked like it was from the early 1990s. The menus for business class are about what you would expect on, say, a transcontinental US flight. You get some choice. It is nice. It isn't quite what I would call flagship American Airlines service, but there's more than enough to choose from. The in-flight screens were good enough, and I enjoyed the shows. This was a cold lunch, but it was very satisfying, and when I later tried to connect to Wi-Fi, I have to say I was confused for a while with Icelandair's somewhat odd system of needing a QR code. Once below the clouds, Iceland, well, it kind of met expectations. It was dark, it was chilly, it was pretty windy as well. But you know what? It also had a very rugged grandeur about it. And immediately I wished I was staying overnight or even for a few days to explore more. And I will one day. I can't stress enough just how nice this aircraft really was. It is a little dated, but it's also a lot less expensive to enjoy a business class seat. And the service was really excellent. There was nothing about this flight that was poor, and while I'm not in love with the 767, for Icelandair, it makes a lot of sense. It allows them to charge less and earn more. Arriving inside the airport terminal, I was reminded a little bit of Helsinki's Vantaa airport. It's wood, it's a bit Danish, although I will say in Iceland, the Keflavik airport is also a little bit dark. Everything Icelandic in terms of a souvenir is in this little shop. However, I will tell you the prices are eye-watering. So come ready to spend several $100s or walk quickly past it. As part of my airfare, I got to enjoy the Saga Lounge, and I intentionally actually stayed over for a longer layover than necessary just to experience the lounge and get some good video. It was restful, it's peaceful, it's very clean, but again, it's also very Spartan, it's Danish, it's wood, and you know, choice-wise, I wouldn't say there are as many choices as you might find in other lounges, but that being said, the choices they did have, they were good.
Keflavik. I like it here, but I like places like this. Smooth flight, great food. For me, for a 3-hour flight, the chicken and couscous with a little bit of hummus and a pretzel was the perfect meal. Seat was comfortable. I would say legroom not very generous, and the aircraft was tired. Not poorly maintained, but the aircraft is definitely getting long in the tooth. It's seen some use. The service was, it's what I have experienced out of Finnair, so maybe it's a little Nordic. Not unfriendly, circumspect. Arrival, the taxi was quick. I'm into the gate. I'm in the Saga Lounge right now. I'm about to have a snack, drink some things to rehydrate. And then I leave for Washington, D.C. in a few hours for a 6-hour flight into Washington, Dulles. So what do I think of Icelandair on the 767 business class? For a 3-hour, 10-minute flight, it was good. I wouldn't call it great, but it was good. The seat was actually a bit extra comfortable. It was the legroom that I'm still struggling with. So with a comfortable seat for a 3-hour, 10 flight from Paris to Iceland, we'll see what it's like on the 787 and what it's like flying 6 hours into Washington, D.C. I suspect it'll be better because it's on a MAX 8, and I suspect that's why the MAX 8 flies that route. It does feel good to get up and walk around, and it feels good to, get a bite to eat, look around. I did notice passport control, which I have to go through, is looking a little brutal. So I probably have to leave here with enough time to get through that. So I am sitting in front of an Icelandair model, and I'm gonna have my snack. I'm gonna think about the trip a little bit more, and we'll talk to you later. Remember, if you like our content, like, comment, and subscribe. So that's all for this episode. Our next episode is from Iceland to Washington, D.C. And that'll be exciting because it's a 6.5 hour flight on a MAX 8. 6 or 6.5 hours. It'll be good to see whether or not the service product is the same or better, you know, how it compares to the 767, but you'll see it on the next episode. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Talk to you soon.